The European Union is once again in the US president's sights. The trade agreement between the European Commission and the White House has barely been concluded, but Donald Trump is already threatening to impose new customs duties on countries that apply measures he considers discriminatory against American technology companies. The threat is a thinly veiled attack on European regulations on digital services and digital markets, known as the DSA and DMA. When questioned, the Commission responded with a clarification.
I think it's useful to recall that what we've been saying a number of times, that it is the sovereign right of the EU and its member states to regulate economic activities on our territory, which are consistent with our democratic values. And to come to the second part of your question, this is also why this was not part of our agreement with the US.
The latest statement by Trump, who is close to the heads of major American tech companies, is a slap in the face for the Commission. In defense of the agreement reached with Washington at the end of July, the European institution emphasized it had protected its digital regulations in exchange for 15% customs duties on exports to the US.
Les propos du président américain semblent remettre en cause la prévisibilité et la stabilité tant vantées par la Commission à propos de l'accord conclu avec Donald Trump. L'institution répète que sa réglementation ne vise pas les entreprises américaines en particulier et qu'elle s'applique à toutes les sociétés actives en Europe. La Commission ajoute d'ailleurs que les deux partenaires partagent des objectifs communs en ligne, comme la lutte contre le terrorisme, la protection des enfants et l'intégrité des campagnes électorales. Grégoire Laurie, Euronews, Bruxelles.
Portugal has joined a list of European countries in suspending most postal services to the US amid widespread uncertainty over the imposition of new import tariffs. The country's national postal service said it would be temporarily suspending services of goods to the US in mail products and international express parcels. The decision follows US President Donald Trump's move to end the duty-free entry of shipments valued at $800 or less. The White House said the decision aimed to combat illegal or abusive practices, such as the shipment of illicit drugs into the states. Postal services in Germany, Denmark, Sweden and Italy to the US were suspended over the weekend, with France, Austria and the United Kingdom following suit. The move is expected to have a significant impact on small and medium-sized European companies exporting lower-value goods to the States. It comes after the US and the European Union reached an agreement on trade last month, the details on which have yet to be finalised. Several EU countries are pushing to use a forthcoming EU strategic deal over the Mediterranean Sea to drop trade barriers with select North African and Middle Eastern countries. The deal relates to Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, Libya, Palestine, Tunisia and Syria. It would see them align with the EU single market rules, a European Commission document seen by Euronews said. It's not the first time Brussels has sought to strengthen trade in the Mediterranean region. A 1995 pact aimed to create the Euro-Mediterranean Free Trade Area, but never materialized. The document indicates member states are looking to go further to strengthen trade links with the region. The move comes as the EU is looking to diversify its trade ties amid instability in its trade relations with the US.
Protesters in Israel torched tires and blocked highways as they demanded their government reach a ceasefire that would free the hostages still being held in Gaza. Responding to a call from Israel's Hostages and Missing Families Forum for a National Day of Struggle, protesters waved banners that read "Hostage Deal Now."
Today is a day of resistance, calling the Israeli government to seal the deal that's now on the table and to bring all the hostages home and to end the war in Gaza. The majority of the Israeli people want the end of the suffering of the hostages and the people in Gaza.
251 hostages were taken during Hamas's October the 7th, 2023 attack on Israel. Their relatives say they hope steady pressure can push Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his security cabinet to commit to ceasefire talks. Far-right members of his coalition have repeatedly threatened to leave if Israel agrees to a truce and have dismissed the protesters' demands.
We the people demand you prioritize the hostages, go back to the negotiation table. There's a good deal on the table. It's something we could work with. It's something we could get a deal done to bring all the hostages back.
The disruption comes as Israeli leaders pressed ahead with plans for an expanded Gaza offensive against a backdrop of displacement, destruction and famine. At least 16 people were killed in Israeli strikes in Gaza on Tuesday, according to hospital workers. Officials from Nasser Hospital, Shifa Hospital and Gaza City's Sheikh Radwan Clinic reported that women and children were amongst those killed.
Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić said Russia and Ukraine would be welcome to use his country as a location for potential peace talks. US President Donald Trump has been pushing for the Ukrainian and Russian leaders to meet, with little success so far.
Do you think Belgrade could be a place for a future meeting between Putin and Zelensky?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I know that there are thousands of people and at least tens of countries that are offering their space for that meeting. I cannot compete with those bigger and smarter and whatever, but they are always very welcome. Have good relationship with President Zelensky, and I believe good relationship with President Putin as well, and Serbia can offer a good hospitality and a very secure place for both of them.
In his exclusive interview with Euronews, the Serbian leader said everyone is interested in peace in Ukraine. He added he had undertaken what he called open talks with Putin in the past, but declined to elaborate further.
Matteo Salvini's comments set off a firestorm between France and Italy. The Italian vice president of the council urged Emmanuel Macron to don a bulletproof vest and go to Ukraine himself, criticizing French support for a possible deployment of European troops in support of Kyiv.
A Milano si direbbe taches al tram. Vacci tu se vuoi, ti metti il caschetto, il giubbetto, fucile, vai in Ucraina.
The dispute highlights the differences between Europeans over the security guarantees they would be prepared to provide to Ukraine in the event of a peace agreement to deter any future Russian aggression. The security guarantee force is expected to have various components.
Il ne s'agit pas d'une force neutre entre les deux parties, mais bien d'une force aux côtés des Ukrainiens qui viserait à dissuader la Russie de reprendre son éventuelle agression de l'Ukraine, en lui démontrant que si elle venait à reprendre les hostilités, cette fois-ci, c'est pas uniquement face aux Ukrainiens qu'elle serait confrontée, mais bien face à une coalition de pays en Europe.
For its part, Rome is firmly opposed to the deployment of Italian troops in Ukraine to prevent any escalation and questions the effectiveness of sending European troops. Instead, it advocates a collective defense mechanism where each country would commit to assisting Ukraine if attacked.
It rather insists on the fact that it should not be his own troops present in a post-ceasefire scenario in Ukraine, but rather develop an Article 5 NATO model that would protect Ukraine without bringing it within the NATO international organization, because we know that this is one of the red line ask from Russia.
According to this expert, the debate also reveals the internal divisions within the Italian coalition government. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni supports Ukraine and has backed all sanctions against Russia. Conversely, Matteo Salvini's League party, which has historic ties with the Kremlin, regularly opposes European support for Ukraine. However, Rome and Paris, both part of the coalition of the willing, could converge on further security guarantees for Kyiv. It's time to choose between chaos and responsibility. Words of French Prime Minister François Bayrou, who on Monday called for a vote of confidence on plans for deep budget cuts. Bayrou, who has led a minority government since last December, on Tuesday said Parliament has 13 days to decide on this, warning that France is in danger. Despite opposition parties saying they will vote against him, Bayrou vowed to fight like a dog to win the 8 September vote.
C'est un moment de clarification et c'est un moment de vérité. Alors je vois bien tous ceux qui, devant cette exigence de clarification, choisissent d'être purement et simplement les artisans du chaos. C'est le contraire de l'esprit de responsabilité et même de co-responsabilité que défend le courant démocratique, social, lucide, réformiste, qui soude les militants de la CFDT et qui est en partage avec les militants de la démocratie sociale. Tout le contraire de ce que ceux-là veulent. Et donc, dans les 13 jours qui viennent, les Français vont choisir, vont influencer leurs représentants pour qu'ils choisissent et disent s'ils se placent du côté du chaos ou du côté de la conscience et de la responsabilité.
The vote comes 2 days before protests are due to take place in France against the government's austerity policy announced by Bayrou in July. Bayrou was appointed by Emmanuel Macron after former Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government collapsed in the confidence vote on spending cuts last December. Last year's budget deficit hit 5.8% of France's GDP.